Hello everyone, it's Balbud and I'm joined yet again by Eremenko.
What's up, peeps?
Last time we were talking about making the assets and getting the NPCs built.
Yeah.
First thing I want to talk about today is continuing on with that and getting the sound effects added.
Yeah, well, it's important. We were talking last time about audio and visual cues. The audio cues are as important as the visual ones, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I guess you spent a lot of time on this one?
For the longest time they were just silent and it really needed some kind of sound, but I really wasn't sure what to go for. So at first I had kind of like a digital beep, like an old RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time a letter appears, I just look like beep, 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 beep. Exactly. Like kind of, what's that game? Undertale.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like Undertale.
But I don't know, it didn't feel right.
It doesn't really fit with the style, I think. The thing is now, we're of an age, you know, when you look at a game like Undertale, it's in the style of 8 and 16-bit games. All right, there's a lot more going on than you could put in an 8 or 16-bit game, but it's in that style, so it fits with that game because that's all they could do back then, you know, like old mobile phones where you just had the bleep 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 bleep. But you know, moving on to the polyphonic era, 3D graphics and stuff like that, you know, you needed something more engaging, I think.
Absolutely. So the next thing I went for was no sound, but just the clicking sound of the mouse.
Yeah, which is a classic as well.
It let you know when you're moving on. It give you that player feedback, but it didn't really have any personality for the characters.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, there's no individuality to the sound when it's just the click for the fox's response.
And so I think what I ended up settling on was a musical note, and it was a different instrument for every pair of characters.
Different instrument for every pair of characters. Okay.
Last time I was saying I made all the characters in pairs.
Yes.
Other than 2 of them, for reasons I'll get into later.
I thought they all had unique instruments. I didn't realize they were in pairs.
No, so it's each pair has their own instrument, but then they have a maximum and minimum note range.
So a high and a low value, basically.
For each of the pair, maybe one of them will speak at like a lower range and the other one will speak at a higher range.
So unlike us, who both speak at the same low frequency.
It's a bad combo to do the show with.
They have one that speaks at a high register all the time.
So yeah, that'd make it easy to tell us apart.
It would, but I'm not going to do that.
It's easy to tell us apart anyways, because you're the one that people can understand what they're saying. You've got that nice clearness to you, and I'm the one who's just like...
Years of vocal training, that's what that is, man. I
Yeah.
used to be an actor. A regular thespian.
Yeah, all them years of Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally paying off, now that you can do this show.
That's what it was all leading up to, man. All those years on the stage, under the bright lights.
Yeah, so the way I managed to get them to speak was, for every line they say, I take all of the letters and then divide them by, I think it was 4 or 5, which is the average word length.
Okay.
And then I take that number and make it so it plays that many beeps, and each time it's randomized within their range of notes.
But you had to do that for every single spoken line. You had to do that calculation.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, I set it up so it takes the line and calculates it for me.
Okay. Now that makes more sense.
Yeah, I didn't manually set it each time.
Okay.
It was a nice workaround because it made every character feel kind of unique, have their own unique sound.
Yeah, and it brings it back to that immediately identifiable nature of a character, doesn't it? Which is what you were really going for with
Absolutely.
Each of these individuals that you've put into the game. And I think the sound is as important as the sight in that respect, you know. And when you can't use voices, you didn't have access to that many voice actors, just me.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done like 18 characters yourself, right?
Oh yeah, easily. I'd do Professor Griswold.
Yeah.
And then female Professor Griswold.
That's all you need, just those 2.
See if you can find a boot.
That's an old one.
It is. It's a classic. It's a callback. Why? How did you choose the instruments? How did you choose for each character, or was it just a case of trial and error? Or?
I downloaded like a kind of like a digital synthesizer. And I was just going through all of the different instruments. Always like a C note I played on every instrument, and just whichever one felt right for each character.
That makes sense.
There wasn't really a scientific way like to go about it. I was just like, that one sounds good, I'll have it.
And it works for this person,
Yeah.
that person. And then obviously switching it across to their opposite character as well, which again hints at a link between the characters, if you like, where maybe people wouldn't spot that with just the visual cues. They might spot that with an audio cue as well, which is cool.
Other than the speech sound effects, I also had to make just regular sound effects for the world.
Yeah, which I loved, by the way. The sploosh in the water. It's one of those proper like sploosh noises, you know. And I know that sounds pretty stupid, but it has like a chunky kind of water feel to it. And the footsteps are brilliant. Like, and I think if you get footsteps wrong in a game, it's so obvious. And when you get them right, it's not that noticeable, but I did notice when I played the game, and I really enjoyed them.
For the longest time, the footsteps were the most irritating thing, because they're the only sound effect in the game for a long time.
Right, yeah.
And it's just silence, then just like tap, 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 tap. You're just like, oh, kill me. So I think once you got the rest in, it wasn't as bad. But for a lot of sound effects, including the footsteps, I actually took them from previous animations I did.
Okay, that makes sense, using stuff that you already have on hand.
Yeah, I figured I already had like a decent amount of sound effects I already made. There's no reason to remake everything. And so it's the same footsteps same with the cloth sounds, I think, also came from the Metal Gear Solid 5 animation.
Right, that's cool, man. I have to go back and watch that now just to hear those footsteps again.
Speaking of old animations, the pajamas the character wears when they wake up with the Aliens logo, that was like straight up a texture I just took from one of my old animations as well.
Really? Oh man, you see, this is where your previous skills came into play. To be fair, like, you know, just being able to add those kinds of things and having those kind of things available to you already, and why not reuse them, man? Like, fuck, how many people have played this game are going to have actually seen that animation? And even if they have, they'd be like, oh, look, cool, this is a reference. They're not going to be like, oh, he's just used the same texture. They're going to be like, wow, this is a nod to something I already know and love.
Yeah, that brings us on to the next section, which is I had to make all of the interiors for the cutscenes.
Yeah.
And there are so many references in this game. I kind of got carried away with it a bit.
The bedroom alone is like just reference city.
Yeah, like it was getting to the point where the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
I was making it, and it was at 64 polygons. I'm like, that's it. I can't add any more.
No more.
It's a
no
reference,
less.
okay.
That's it.
Nobody's ever going to know that, but let's just leave it at 64.
Something just for you.
Yeah, and I was actually quite surprised. I was watching a playthrough of it on YouTube just to see like how people reacted to it.
Yeah.
And in the comments, people were getting like some of the more obscure references I found. Like some people, like if you look in the shelf in the background, there's one scene you can see there's a tiny model of Red Dwarf. I'm surprised anyone even knows what Red Dwarf is.
Oh shit, there is, man. I never noticed that, and I fucking love Red Dwarf.
And I think outside of like the UK, no one really cares for Red Dwarf.
They did, and here we go. Tangent number one. They did do an American pilot.
Yeah, it was so bad though.
It's so bad. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. My favourite reference and the most obvious one in the bedroom is the Persona 3 portable reference with the fox's head instead of the main character. I think that's just like...
I originally had that as a B3. I just flipped the P upside down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that now.
But then my friend was like, you should have made it F3 for Persona.
I
was like, when you're right, you're right.
And they were right. And that's what made it into the game in the end, the F3.
Yeah, I mean, it was an idea that good, how can I say no?
And I have to say I prefer the original Detective Cunningham as well.
Really?
Not necessarily the complete image, but I prefer the style. Like I'm a film noir guy. I love that kind of stuff. I love old detective movies.
Detective Cunningham's an idea I've had for a long time.
Yeah, a long.
And I think he was going to be an old-timey detective, but I wasn't liking the way the poster looked.
Yeah, and the other one does draw the eye a little bit more, I suppose. It's Am I wrong in thinking that it's got a bit of a Hotline Miami reference in there as well?
It was just kind of like old movie posters in general.
Okay. Just the jacket is very Hotline Miami.
Yeah, if you look at the sort of the things I based it on, I think it was Die Hard's poster, Beverly Hills Cop, and Lethal Weapon. All
perfect examples of detective action films.
Yeah, I just took all those movies, like the posters for them, I just slapped them together and then drew a pig over it. It's a perfect formula.
The perfect pig. I love it. And like I say, I think I prefer the idea that Detective Cunningham is film noir because I've been hearing about him for so long. That's how I picture him in my head.
Yeah, that's how he was going to be.
But making him a bit of an Axel Foley character, I think that was a smart move as well. I do like it. Underrated movies, by the way, Beverly Hills Cop. Very underrated.
I think if I ever did get around to making Detective Cunningham, he probably would be more of a noir type guy.
But it's funny because film noir it's not in fashion right now. We were talking about Knives Out last night. It's got a little bit of a film noir vibe to it. But Dirk Gently, the book by Douglas Adams, the series of books, that was very film noir-y in the books. It was very film noir-y in the original series that they made about it, but they remade it recently. They remade a series for Netflix recently, and it was more of an action comedy kind of vibe to it. And I can see why you would do that, but personally for me, like, film noir is the coolest way of doing detective.
Absolutely.
But that's a sidetrack. Go on about your interiors. What else did you do when you were making them?
Speaking of that poster, I also, like, if you notice the tagline, it's because I was putting as many references to time in the...
Ah, okay.
Like, in the game, there's just a million references to time.
This time is the last time.
Yeah, and I think that's the last thing I was doing, was just tweaking small things like the poster. Yeah. And I'm like, how can I fit a couple more references to time in there?
That's pretty cool.
Just the dumbest thing, if this time is the last time.
Time. It's a bit like when we were playing Prop Hunt and you kept making these little puns and jokes to try and hint at where you were. You're good at that.
That's how my mind works. My mind just thinks in puns.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Puns are always hilarious, in my opinion.
So I had to make the sets for the interior locations. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like a TV show set, where it was kind of, three walls, a roof and a ceiling.
Yeah, and this is like the magic. You're really seeing behind the scenes here. That's exactly what I thought as soon as I saw this. People, they don't think about this. And it's not something I ever thought about until I started messing around with Blender. You actually position cameras.
Yeah.
In these programs, and looking at that, you have in this image, you have got two cameras, but the beauty of working in digital media is you can hide the cameras; they can just disappear, even though and still be rolling.
And you can get those impossible shots where you're just like, you want to be peeking through this wall where there wouldn't normally be space for a camera. You could do that.
Yeah, you can do that. Which it makes it a bit weird. Can you explain the reasoning behind not including the fourth wall? Because obviously you could have, and you could have just peeked the camera through it. Or disappeared it when you wanted to disappear it, kind of thing.
It's an extra thing to worry about, and like having to remove the wall when you want to and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice to have one wall free just to make it clear what you're doing inside there. But also, I knew I wouldn't need to see the other side of the room. And so I just thought, there's no point decorating it. There's no point in making.
You're never looking in from the back side of it as such, so that makes sense. But that is a proper behind the scenes shot, in my opinion. That really drives home that people are seeing the inner workings of a game here when they're watching these videos.
Kind of similar to the scenes where there is a full environment, such as like the cutscene inside of the diner or inside of the store. Yeah,
well, it's completely different when they're outside. Obviously you've got the skybox, which kind of only runs to a certain level, and then the world actually disappears off the end of it. But the outdoor world is completely different to this little enclosed environment that you're using, and I guess blocking and setting is much more important in that kind of space than it is in a bigger, wider space.
But for cutscenes, I kind of felt it was still a little bit of that going on. Like, for example, see on side of the shop, I know that looking out the window, exactly what you will be able to see.
Yeah.
And so anything behind the shop or at the angle you can't see was just gone.
Oh, really? So you just take it away?
And so if you ever saw the map outside of a cutscene, anything that you can't possibly see from within the cutscene just didn't exist, and the town looked really strange every time.
That's clever. I didn't think about that. I assumed you would just use the whole town, but yeah, it saves loads of resources if you don't.
Yeah, it just makes it load a little bit quicker, less to go wrong.
Clever. Man, we're getting the deep dive on the secrets this time.
Only took 4 episodes, but we're getting there. Okay, so for the cutscenes,
yeah,
I originally would plan them out either in Cinema 4D or in the Unreal Engine, and I would kind of just move a camera around, get the nice shots, get them all lined up, and think, I want a camera here, and then to move to here.
So this is essentially the director phase of making a game.
Yeah, kind of almost like making storyboards, I guess.
Yeah, which is what it looks like in the image that I'm looking at now.
Sort of take screenshots of all the camera positions that I like, and then put them into Photoshop and just doodle over them really roughly. Mm-hmm. Kind of with notes or just sort of showing where the characters will be and what they're doing.
And how they're going to interact with you, and also showing the emotion in those little doodles as well.
So yeah, they're very emotional doodles if you look at them.
Yeah, they are. That super angry last panel I love it.
Yeah, that can just give me a rough guide, and then from that I would animate in Cinema 4D all of the separate animations. And it was kind of weird because how we spoke before about animating for games being different from regular animation.
Yeah.
Animating for cutscenes is like a weird in-between area.
That makes sense.
Where they do move around the scene. You're not animating them on the spot, but you still have to animate them in small sections that go together and sync up.
And is there any like limit on number of frames and stuff that you can use compared to regular animation, or is it pretty open on that front?
No, it can use as many frames and stuff as you want. It's more just you have to think about the way objects interact with each other or interact with the player's input. For example, in regular animation, you would just, say you had a guy walk from one place to another, talk to someone, then walk back. You would just have that as one animation. But in a cutscene like this, you'd have an animation walking there, and then a loop of him standing until you choose what to say, then an animation of him talking, and then another loop of him waiting for the response, and then an animation of him walking back.
And all the animations have to have triggers, I guess.
Yeah. Once you got them all, you put them into the engine, then I program them to work kind of similarly to how the regular NPCs talk.
Yeah.
But I kind of had to make a new speech system for the cutscenes.
Unfortunate.
And then halfway through making it, I found a better way of making the speech systems. And so half the cutscenes use one and half the cutscenes use another, and then the regular NPCs use a third type.
Aich.
And it's a really, really elegant, simple way of doing it. It was much easier to use. And I was sitting there thinking, should I go and remake all the previous cutscenes and the NPCs with the new speech system?
Yeah.
I kind of want to, but it was so much work. And I felt like the player wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the three.
And at that point, you didn't have to, because you already had it in place and it was already working, so why not? And I don't think anybody would be able to tell unless they got into the code and had a proper hard look.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, is there's 3 different speech systems, but when you're playing it, you cannot tell which one is which. They all seem exactly the same from the player perspective.
That makes sense.
Speaking of the dialogue, you may have noticed last time I was saying I wrote temporary dialogue.
Yes, it was just a placeholder dialogue because someone else was going to help you write.
Yeah, so good old Mandy, same person who stole my mains.
Overwatch mains.
Because she was a professional writer at the time, and she kept saying, I'd love to write for a game. Can I write for your game? Yeah, I'd love that. It'd be so handy.
Useful, knowing people who can do things for you.
But then when it came time to start making the characters, she was sort of I haven't got around to anything yet. I'll get with it later. And so I wrote all the temporary dialogue. And now I was getting to the point where I was wrapping up doing the NPCs.
Yeah.
And it's I need the dialogue. It's I wrote the first 2 lines of Brady. I was that's it. I've made an entire game here.
You got 2 lines for free.
Well, I didn't use them because I had to rewrite everything. And so
of course,
because she hadn't done anything, she kind of left me having to rewrite 1,800 lines again.
Aish.
So, yeah.
Well, that's why she's not in the credits, if anyone asks.
Yeah. So, it's almost as bad as stealing the mains.
Am I in the credit?
I don't know. Maybe we should put you in.
It's okay, man. I understand. It should all just be Balbod. Written by Balbod, directed by Balbod, created by Balbod, models by Balbod, sound by Balbod.
I think I've got a section for beta testers in there. But I don't know if you're in it because you'd actually played the beta.
No, I didn't play the beta. I played the pre-alpha.
It was kind of just hey, can you jump on a roof? No, I can't. Okay.
I did play a limited version. No, I think I played possibly the final version, or a close to final version. I played right through twice at least with everybody available and chatting to people and stuff.
Was there a day 7?
Maybe there wasn't. Possibly not. I never got any really exciting endings. Can't remember. I think I've still got it on my computer somewhere. I'll see if I can fire it up and
the secret early version.
See if it's a day 7. Yeah, exactly. I have that. If anybody wants that, it's you just jump on my Patreon. $19.99 a week, and I'll send you that.
I actually don't have the old version anymore.
Do you not?
You're the only person that has a copy of it.
Destroyed it all. That's amazing. If I still have it. But definitely still have it. So $19.99 on Patreon.
So, anyways, back to the matter at hand.
Yeah.
It was getting near the end of making the game, and it turns out if you do 2 years of practice making a game, you improve a hell of a lot
in every aspect.
And so, if you look at the early models I made, and then look at the later models I made, there is a huge, huge difference in quality.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, because I made everything in different orders as well, it wasn't like I did all the NPCs, I did all of the cutscenes. I kind of hopped between jobs to keep it interesting.
So there was quite a Disparity?
Yes.
Anyway, there was
I know what you mean.
Big differences between some of the models, the newer models, I guess.
Because of this, I kind of had to go back and rework all of the old models, or straight up some of them I had to remake completely.
Yeah, to get everything to fit into the style that had evolved, I suppose, out of your increasing skills.
And so it was a long time of remodeling, retexturing, reanimating. But then, it turns out after you do all of that, you improve again.
Yep, you do.
And so the old models that were good are now not as good as the new models. And so I had to go back and rework them again.
So the second generation of models weren't as good as the third generation of models. So the second generation of models became the fourth generation of models.
It was getting like that. I literally had to cut myself off. I think I animated the fox 4 times.
Oh, shit.
And I was just like, it's never going to end. I'm just going to have to say, like, wherever it's at now is good enough. Move on.
I think that probably makes sense as well, though. You have to draw a line under it eventually. You can't just keep reiterating and reiterating. Otherwise, you'll end up making the same game for 20 years, like World of Warcraft or whatever. You just get stuck in this cycle, this loop of releasing new content for an old game or never even releasing a game. And I think that's part of the problem we were talking about last time, where people don't finish a project because they get so bogged down in the mundane, in the obvious. And yes, looking at these two characters on the screen, the old busted and the new hotness, I can see the difference in quality. Absolutely, they're leagues apart. Everything about them, the shading, the texturing, the shape, the body and stuff, and that's without even seeing them animated. So yes, you can see a huge difference, but once you get to a certain level, i.e. the new hotness level, going beyond that, it's going to be incrementally improving, and people aren't necessarily going to notice that in the final version of the game. And I think good enough is one thing, very good is another, and once you get to that point of it being very good rather than just being good enough, it's time to draw a line under the project and say, okay, I've taken this as far as I need to. I probably could take it slightly further, but then it'll never be released.
I'm still not happy with a lot of it, but it's kind of thing that you'll never be happy with it.
That new hotness, though, the sloth model, he is brilliant. I love him.
He's probably one of my favourites.
Actually, I want that jumper.
So that's going to be the hot new merch.
That's the character you based on me, right? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Same hair and everything.
So that reminds me, because all the characters are kind of a mix of people I know who give me answers.
Yeah.
And so one of the characters has like a lot of elements based on Sam.
Okay.
And then he played the game and was like, I can tell that character's clearly based on me. Really?
What are you
trying to say, that I'm like an alcoholic? Like, I don't even drink that much. Like, yeah, like some of the characteristics are based on you.
Yeah. So parts of it, and that's the trouble, isn't it? Was creating something and then sharing it with people that you're friends with and people that you are obviously inspired by in a way. Like, people are always going to potentially take offense, and it's a difficult path to walk, I think, being a creative type. I honestly didn't spot any references to myself in the game at all.
Oh, you didn't find the gimp called Geremenko?
Oh no, I didn't know. I obviously didn't get him on my playthrough.
Yeah, he's a secret character. You have to unlock him.
I'll have to go looking for him, especially. But I don't know. I think in part that's because I have very little ego, so I'm not going out looking for parts. And in another part is because I don't necessarily understand what people see in me in a way. So I never really spotted anything.
Yeah, that's true. I think the way everyone sees themselves is very different to how other people see them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sam saying that, a little bit defensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Makes sense, though.
The alcoholic sections were not based on him. They were based on my alcoholic friend, David.
Oh, David, man, he's such a plonky.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Plonk?
Yeah.
I love that expression.
It's such a northern thing to say.
It is, 100%. It means somebody who likes alcohol a little bit too much.
Anyways,
go on.
So this is the dark age of making the game, where everything's getting remade. I'm not happy with anything.
It's not progressing so much as refinement.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I was just thinking I was sick of it and wanted to remake everything.
Yeah.
But I like your way of looking at it.
But yeah, you can see why obviously when you're progressing along and things are happening, things are changing, it's satisfying. But when you're just in there tweaking little things all the time, it's going to get a little bit frustrating and possibly a bit dull.
There was also a lot of things that I ended up changing about the ending.
Okay.
So the original version, was after the whole week's gone through, the final day you leave the house and a large chemical bomb gets dropped in the middle of the town.
And the world ends.
Well, not at first. It starts releasing gas. You have to try and outrun it.
Okay.
And get escape the town. But if it catches you, then you transform a almost bestial version.
Oh, okay.
So you become more like the animal you're supposed to be, and everyone else does as well.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, so instead of being a humanoid fox, you're more fox than human. And then it was going to become kind of almost like a hack and slash where you had to go around and kill everyone in the town.
This is spoilers, by the way, for everyone who hasn't already played.
Well, this isn't the ending that's
it's
anymore.
Not.
You go around and you kill everyone in the town, and then the next morning you'd wake up and find it was all the effects of the chemical, and you were hallucinating, and you just murdered everyone.
Killed everyone. Oh my god, that's fucking dark, mate.
Yeah, and so I didn't go with that one.
Good. And
ended up changing it to, instead it was going to be really trippy, what was going to happen. Everyone was going to change into a realistic version of their animal. So you'd be walking around town and everyone would just be an actual deer or an actual pig.
That's trippy.
And it was just really weird, and I had this whole thing planned out, but it was so much work to remodel everything realistically. Yeah. And then reanimate them all in a quadruped fashion.
In a convincing manner.
Too much work.
So that didn't happen either.
No. There's a few different ideas. They were all equally dark and complicated, and ended up cutting all of them, going for what I went with in the end.
Which you have to play the game to find out. Available now on Steam.
So I should just had you as my marketing department instead of nothing.
Yeah, no marketing department whatsoever. Yeah, we should build a Twitter presence for you, right? For last week, the game.
I did find out yesterday that my game has been cracked and people are pirating it, and there's more people playing the pirated version than have
No
bought
way!
The game.
Oh man, that blows.
So yeah, I'm glad people.
At least it's out there. Yeah. At least it's out there. But those people could, if anyone's watching this who is playing the cracked and pirate version, you could at least go on Steam and leave a review.
You have to own a Steam copy of the game to leave a review.
Yeah, well, they could at least go and buy it on Steam and leave a review.
It'll go on Steam sale. Just if you like the game, buy it then.
Or promote it. Even if you are playing a cracked version of it, make a video. Put it out there. Show people what the game's all about, and let them decide for themselves whether they want to buy it. And I think there was I can't remember what the story was, but there was a. I know that Game Dev Tycoon on PC, they released their own hacked version of the game to no Steam and whatever else, uTorrent and stuff like that, and people were downloading it, but it was impossible to make a profit.
Yeah.
So your game company would just go bust over time, kind of thing. You would just keep losing, even if you made an amazing game, you would just keep losing money, and you would get letters in game, people saying, your game's being pirated, you're losing money. Your game's this game's been cracked and everybody's playing the pirate. Everyone loves the game, but they're all playing the pirate version of it, which I thought was a really clever take on it. But there was another game that released just a fully playable version. I can't remember what it was now, but they released a fully playable version of it to no Steam, and all it did was increase the popularity of the game and ultimately led to their game being more successful, which is great. But obviously on a small indie scale, that's not likely going to happen. So sucks that it's happened, man. But yeah, and I understand that you're just happy that people are actually playing it.
Piracy is a weird thing, because the simple version of it is it's stealing's bad, but I also feel like the people who are stealing a cheap indie game probably weren't going to pay for it anyways.
Yeah.
If you stop them from stealing it, they're just not going to play it.
Just stay away from it completely.
It's kind of interesting, as you say, if it's someone that wasn't going to pay for the game anyways and they get it and tell their friend about it, that's probably better than them not playing it at all.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and then maybe their friend will get it legitimately.
But also, the people who pirated it have probably made more money off the game than I have after
especially if they've gone and done videos and stuff on it.
Yeah, so fuck them guys.
Those bastards.
Speaking of the anti-piracy measures, I remember Mirror's Edge had a really great one.
Oh, did it?
So you just played the game like normal, and there's no way to tell the difference between the pirated version and the non-pirated version. And then there's a big jump you have to do from rooftop to rooftop. And once you get in that area, your character starts walking. And so you can never get enough speed to make the jump. So you can still play the game. And it seems like it's the legitimate version. And people couldn't figure out, why can't I make this jump? I need to jump there, but I'm not fast enough.
That's clever. It's funny, though, because Mirror's Edge, it's funny you mentioned that, because I played Mirror's Edge all the way through on console, and I loved it. And it came up cheap on PC, so I thought, I'll buy it on PC and play it in better graphics and stuff. And at the time, I still don't have that good of a PC, but I had a even worse one then. And I tried to play it, and I heard a lot of people had the same problem. There's a point that you get to where people, I think it's quite soon after you first get people with guns chasing you, and they start shooting, and it's in a glass corridor, and all the glass starts to fall apart, and it just doesn't work. Like it. Even on more modern machines, it's a bit of a Crisis 2 moment where it just it just lags to like 2 frames per second and then crashes all the fucking time. And I know even people who had better PCs than me at the time had exactly the same issue and exactly the same point. So that piracy protection bit was pointless because nobody could fucking play it beyond a certain point anyway.
The actual game stops you.
The actual game stops you. On PC anyway, stops you.
Yeah. I don't think I ever played it on PC, so I didn't get the joy of having my PC explode.
Die on you, yeah. Just go, stuttering stop.
So anyways, back to the cuts.
Yes, exactly.
So after cutting out the ending and replacing that, I also got rid of 2 NPCs. One of them was an old crow who kind of gossiped about everyone in the town.
Okay.
They would give you hints for what to do for the other people based on their gossiping.
Oh, I don't remember the crow ever being in it when I played it.
Well, I never actually modelled them and stuff because I got rid of them pretty early.
They weren't ever in it.
But the original plan was to have this old crow, and they'd be like, oh, like I heard about, such and such who wants this to happen. It'd kind of be her gossiping, but also a hint on how to help the other person.
That's a clever way of doing it, yeah. Adding that character in there to nudge people in the right direction.
And then her whole story was about how she never really lived for herself. She was so obsessed with other people.
Because gossipers never prosper.
And so when it came to the end of the world, it's like, hey, how about instead of focusing on other people, like, what have you been doing? Turns out nothing.
Spill the tea on yourself.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting rid of her. I don't know, just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of having a sort of almost a tutorial character or a hint character, but I can see why you decided to go. What did you decide to do instead?
Well, I was talking to one of my friends and asking them again, like, what would you do if the world was ending? And they said, I would just spend time with my mum.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so I was like, I'll put a mother character in the game. You can go spend time with them. And now they give you hints instead.
Ah, okay. That's, yeah.
And at the end of every day when you're talking to them, you can try and tell the mother, like, hey, the world's ending. This is the end. Goodbye. But she kind of won't listen to you most of the time.
She just glazes over and goes, yes, dear, that's nice. I'll make you some cookies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the idea of going back to still having a hint character, but doing it in a slightly different way. Like the gossiping idea, I think is a good one as well. I think that would have made for an interesting character. But yeah, the mother idea probably usurps it just.
Yeah, I replaced the crow with that, and then I told my friend like, oh, like I put the mother in the game, like you say. And she's like, oh, thanks. And I go, this does mean most endings she will die horribly, though.
Oh, that's
just like you.
And the sweet friend who said that was obviously distraught by it.
Of course, as people are in most conversations with me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's another character I was going to add, which was a different sloth called Flo.
Okay.
Because they go with the flow. They're like a full-on hippie.
Nice. Hey, Fox man.
Yeah, I love the people that asked about what they do. They kind of just said like, oh, I can't stop it, so why would I be concerned? I would just, just live my last week like normal. Like, I'll just, go with it. If it happens, it happens.
Just don my hemp trousers and carry on, bro.
And I thought that's like an interesting way to go about it. It'd be nice to have a character for that. But you can't really have a story there.
No,
because normally it's like they have a problem and you go help them with it, or they have a personality flaw and you go make them confront it, sort of thing. For them, you're just like, hey, like the world's end. They're like, no.
Whatever, man. All right.
There's no real like arc for them. Nothing changes. They just start as like, okay, and end as okay.
They have no arc, but they are endearing as fuck for some reason.
But for this type of game, I don't think it worked very well. So we end up changing him for Brady.
Okay.
Who has a whole different story about being worried about everything.
Brady was the
sloth in the nice jumper.
The sloth. Oh, yes, the nice jumping sloth. Oh, man, I love it.
So it's still got a sloth because the design was great, but...
Yeah, it is a great design. But initially that was going to be the hippie sloth.
Yeah. Originally it was Flo, the person that didn't really care. Now everyone cares.
And everyone has a story.
Exactly.
Which you can find out by playing the game.
That's just a word from the marketing department there.
Yeah. Drop it in there.
So yeah, each NPC I made, I want to challenge myself more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a huge difference between the first NPC I made and the last one I made. I think the last one I made was maybe Rocky the raccoon.
Stepped into his room.
Yeah, exactly.
Only to find kitchen fire. Oh, I just got video demonetized by the Beatles.
Yeah, it was too accurate. The bots picked you up.
Straight away.
So I'm glad you got the reference, though.
Yeah, man, straight away. As soon as I saw Rocky the Raccoon.
He's also got a whole bunch of references in his stories, but his story is like technically way more advanced than any of the others. It has like multiple cutscenes,
Right.
It has branching paths that are like way different. And then like the first one I made is like, it's just a simple route through.
Which is fine, all the characters can't be the same in depth.
I think it was good to like push myself with each character and make them like, more and more advanced each one.
Yeah.
But I do think it makes them a little bit unequal. So there's like a few good characters in there that you can go find. It's like a whole thing. And then others you're like, they had their moment.
And it was okay.
But again, it was kind of like earlier when I said I had to stop myself from remaking everything.
Yeah. It's part of the learning curve, isn't it? And I think you probably still see that in AAA games as well. There are paths that are more interesting. There are paths that are deep but short. It's just the way it is with any kind of story. Like we were talking about last time, a Steve Jackson Choose Your Own Adventure.
With the
you could get to the end
Jack
really
troll.
quickly, but you'd miss everything else. The Jack Troll.
Yeah, when I was editing that, I just found that troll hilarious, and I was the one making it.
I know, I had a good giggle when I watched the video back.
I spent ages editing it, and then watch it back. I was like, oh, I'm so funny. Look at that Jack troll.
I'd chortling at myself like a man who laughs at his own jokes.
Back to the point again. We can't keep letting the Jack troll distract us.
Sorry, man. Just when I see muscles and.
So I think the finished game was maybe like 3 or 4 times bigger than what I originally planned.
Yeah.
Because they just kept adding more and more stuff to it, making everything more and more complex.
It's a snowball effect, isn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of similar before. I had to cut myself off after a certain point. I would love to go back and make some of the simpler NPCs more advanced or rewrite them.
Yeah, maybe one day there'll be a last week remastered.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. I'm going to add the 2 missing characters back in. It's going to be DLC.
Oh, amazing. What a good idea.
And I'm going to throw some loot boxes in there.
Yeah, you've got to have loot boxes.
Yeah, but you can't get them unless you've paid the subscription fee.
That's genius.
And to get the battle pass as well.
Is the way to make money. Unless you get the cracked version of the game, in which case you're a bastard.
Yeah, then it's all free. Yeah, eventually I had to just make a new plan and just really stick to it. Like really force myself to just... You can't add any more than this. You can't deviate. You can't go back and remake things. This is what you have to make. Anything after that, that has to go. Which really sucked because I kept coming up with more ideas all the time. There was a couple of extra cutscenes at the ending. Like I had to cut. One of the endings, when the usual stuff goes down, the most common scenario for the Day 7 goes down. If you escape through the tunnel, you get an ending where it's kind of like mysterious.
Okay.
Originally, there was going to be an extra cutscene after this, where it shows you like wandering through some woods. So you've been travelling for a long time, way away from the town. And then you see like a bunch of government agents at a checkpoint, and they end up capturing you and like taking you in. I ended up cutting that because I felt like the mysterious ending kind of worked well enough.
Yeah, the tunnel was always a really intriguing point of the map for me. I was always so interested in it. I tried every day to go through it, but to no avail.
You can only go through it at the very end.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I had Day 7.
I kind of felt like having the government people in didn't really add a whole lot to the story.
No, it's a level of intrigue, isn't it? But it's without having touched upon it at any time previously, it seems a little bit cheap.
But it required like so much extra stuff because there's going to be like a whole new set outside of the town that I make for this.
A bunch of new models.
Yeah, and the cutscenes took a long time to set up. So in the end, that got cut. And there's also going to be an ending if you 100%ed the game and then went to play again. And the fox would wake up and it would almost be like Groundhog Day, he's aware of all of the different playthroughs.
Right, okay. That's cool.
And then like it starts the same. You have like different speech options of being like, hey, I've kind of like seen what happens. Like we're all going to die.
Kind of like a new game plus.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 cutscenes. Each one was going to be bigger than any of the other cutscenes in the game.
Shit.
And it was going to be like almost like a quiz. Like you're going into town and trying to convince everyone that like the world is going to end. And they'll think you're crazy. But then you have options to like say different things and you have to like convince them based on things that you wouldn't know.
What you've been through already.
So like if you spent time with, say, the horse and you found out their secrets, during the rerun of it, you could be like, hey, I know that you're secretly like this.
You could be like, hey.
I put that joke in the game, don't worry.
Of course you did.
Yeah, it was kind of like a weird extra ending where you can go back and if you've remembered everything about every character, you could then convince them that the world is ending. And if you found out how to stop the world ending for you personally, you can convince all of them to do the same thing. And it's like a way to save everyone in the town.
That's cool. But you didn't put that in.
It was so much extra work. It would literally be like the equivalent of like the length of these 3 cutscenes totaled up would be the same as every other cutscene in the game.
It's just like rewriting the whole game, basically, isn't it? Over again, kind of thing.
It would probably be like another 3 months of work.
Shit, man. And on top of the 5 years you already worked on it, probably too much.
Also, I'll be honest, I didn't think anyone would actually finish the game.
Yeah, especially not enough times to get that specific scenario.
Because it's a weird game, there's a lot of very obscure things, and a lot of the stories kind of hinted at from different places, and you have to add it up yourself.
Bring it together.
Yeah, and so I kind of felt like very, very few people would get 100% completion.
No, that makes sense.
I'm looking at the stats, so a few people have got it already.
Really?
Yeah. And so I'm like,
that's pretty cool.
Maybe I should have added that.
One day, maybe. As DLC.
Yeah, DLC with loot boxes.
All the loot boxes.
So I think that pretty much goes over like all of the changes and cuts and stuff. I think it's time for Big Kev and his spicy segments.
Everybody's favourite part of the show, man. So what we got on the deck this week?
Not much. Not much, I'm afraid.
Oh?
We had a comment from one guy, but I think he was just saying like, nice work.
I believe the YouTube channel Call said loved it. That was it. That was his whole comment. And I've had a little look at his channel. He's got such classic videos as how to unlock the free reactive neon and old Fortnite map returning. So, you know, he's definitely not a bot.
I mean, that's always nice when they're not bots.
I'm not sure that... It says, Cole doesn't own this channel. It's owned by his dad.
Okay.
So, there you go. He exists. And that's probably about the best we can say about Kev's spicy segments this week. Have you got anything else that you'd like to put into this segment?
There was a guy on Steam who asked about the music. He's saying, where's the soundtrack? There isn't an actual soundtrack, but the guy who made the music, his name is Ray Ginsberg, and it was a guy I worked with long ago on a different animation.
Nice, man. Good reference.
Next week we'll speak about the music.
Yeah, look forward to talking about
that. We'll cover that for the guy who was
That's
asking.
cool. It's nice that you're getting that kind of interest because the music it's good. It's not overbearing. It's nice incidental music, and it's good that people are actually paying attention to it.
I actually really, really like the music.
Yeah.
I felt like that's one of the few things I was really happy with.
Good, man.
It really sets the tone and mood, I feel.
Yeah, I'm just looking now. 17.9% of the people who played it have got 100% complete. Do it all.
Right.
That's excellent.
And it's like I expected it to be like 0.001%.
Yeah, man. That's cool. I'm happy that people are playing it through to completion. That's good for you.
I need to go back and make the game more difficult.
Maybe.
Actually, when I launched the game, there was a bug and one of the characters' achievements would not unlock. Wow. And I felt so bad because there was one guy who like had all of the achievements except for that one. And then he had to go and release a patch for it. And it was weird because he had the 100% completed achievement, but didn't have all of the achievements.
That's so sad. Well, at least he managed to get the 100%, so it was slightly less frustration for him.
Yeah, I did patch that, but I felt bad that he like put all that work in and then didn't get them all.
So you just gave it to him for free.
I wish I could. He has to go and unlock it again.
Yeah, have an achievement, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that. So should we play the taggedy tag game?
Sure. I think it's your time, and you get double tags.
It is my time, and I have been making some notes as we went through the game today
smart.
to give you the lowdown. So I had a few ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Video game piracy, I think, is definitely going to be my first tag.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And then I was thinking jacked troll.
Well, there were a lot of people out there searching for jacked trolls.
Yeah, I think there probably are. Iteration versus revelation, branching path, tunnel of love, and drawing a line. So I have to pick one. I think I'm going to go with jacked troll.
It's a smart choice. That's going to get us all the
Video game
views.
piracy and jacked troll.
1 million views next week. I'm calling it out.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. As soon as those fucking tags kick in.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up then.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for being
It's
here.
been a pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.